The void bleeds azure fire in front of me. The entire Crimson Gold Armada, more than 10 million soldiers, veteran from the Solar War, undefeated since the retreat over Rhea, opens fire. Thousands of kilos of tungsten rounds pushed forth to a small percentage of the speed of light, and imbued by the soul core of the vessels with some psionic resonance of the crews, are sent forth in a wall of death by my command. The veritable wrath of the dragon, unleashed. It takes 3 minutes for the ammunition to register on Xylax sensors, barely after images on the debris field. The same to actually hit. It does not matter. Using the predictions of the prognosticars, the gunnery crews have already sent the next volleys, using the established seer windows to be feed coordinates to where the enemy vessels will be, and they fire once more. During the 15 minutes it takes my fleet to reach what we call haymaker range, no ship stops firing. Almost all of our shots will hit or at the very least force enemy ships to move where others' shots will land. It's hard to dodge a rain of death when every drop knows where you are going to be. The first volley is mostly composed of Hydra munitions, which detonate dozens of kilometers from the Xylax fleet, and among them, sending millions of small darts of tungsten into enemy ships. Most hit shields, some are sent scattering through the void, but the biggest behemoths are not the targets. The psionically charged darts serve a triple-fold objective. They annihilate smaller craft, like fighters and light corvettes, their shielding lackluster to the volume of impact to which they are subjected, the chem shields of the Xylax vessels going out in sickly green flashes as the darts mail pincushions of the frigates and support ships. They strike enemy stealth ships, marking them to auger nets, whose operators cross-reference with their other instruments to determine where hidden vessels are, if there are any, for command to keep in mind. And thirdly, it leaves clouds of magnetically and psionically charged metal that plays havoc with any close-range sensor. It's a blow for the eyes and ears of a fleet, why the Xylax don't see the next volleys coming, and these ones are not Hydra ammunitions, but Damocles-class kinetic killers, designed to skewer foes of such tonnage and armor as their biggest ships. Not that seeing them come would do any good. Now comes the lunge for the throat. The volley of killing shots, having fed on the improved seer windows of our first volleys, is precise and devastating. Shields collapse under enough firepower to cleave cities asunder, the continuous streams of slugs concentrating to overload shields and penetrate armor. I'll give those monsters their due. Their void-faring mockeries of life are resilient. My naval officers take picks and scanners from the regenerating wounds of enemy vessels, and where mucus expands to protect the holes in their hide and stop venting atmospheres. They are a hideous attempt at life, like the titanic cousins of the fauna in the seas of Europa, deadly, predatory, and devoid of any mercy. To all that, one should add the Xylax cunning and group thought. They are a race of predators, like sharks in the dark void between stars, devouring everything that moves, uncaring of consequences. Well, here we bloody well are. The motherfucking consequences. On my personal implants, a countdown starts in deep ruby numbers. I block it there so I can keep control of those numbers. The Jovian part of the fleet divides itself into 2 detachments that begin to separate themselves from the ecliptic plane in opposing directions, forming squadrons that start to envelop the enemy fleet from above and below, maintaining their cadence of fire without relent. To the railgun batteries follow long-range torpedoes, missiles and ordnance perfected over 5 years after the last war. The first real blood is for the Damsel of Midnight, who guts a Xylax heavy cruiser, long-range plasma torpedoes finding its exposed belly and venting its guts into space. A full salvo from its ventral and spinal batteries cuts it in, almost half, killing it for good. Cassandane grips my shoulder with a feral smile. My wife is in her element. She is as much a warrior as I am, but she is an animal of a more political disposition. She enjoys dissecting enemy strategies and armies like a surgeon with a scalpel. I am a sword, a well-wielded and much experienced sword, but I hack the enemy apart in a much different manner. This is my rodeo, so she leads her Martians, but she's enjoying it nonetheless. She has always enjoyed seeing me work. I will confess that it is a reciprocal thing. The Xylax find it in them to retort to us. Balan grunts at the response fire and begins to coordinate fields of fire and redirect energy from generators to maintain shield integrity. Himiko shadows her husband. Making use, the sensors are clean, and no surprise finds our exposed backs. They work with the minimal use of words, and my veteran bridge crew needs no more to make the massive vessel underneath our feet work like a clock to unleash its firepower, capable of making a god kneel. The countdown trails lower and lower, another part of the plan. I see catalytic destroyers and plasma batteries fire back at us. Their fire is slower, but they pack a greater punch. So we do not stay put. Shields flare alive with the pressure of incoming enemy fire, and our escorts race forward to intercept whatever ammunition they can. Defense squadrons and Oni-class drones throw themselves into the path of incoming ordnance, blowing it out of the void. Flak fills the view screens as the point defense systems of the Lady Morningstar spew death. Some gets through still, even with the overlapping fields of fire and interceptors running amok with the incoming biotorpedoes. All that living ordnance is swatted from the void one after another, but they keep coming, and every second we close in, the volume of fire increases. Shields flare alive with blue flashes of plasma, but mostly hold. My flagship has endured much worse punishment, others have not. Escorts die when they don't manage to pull away in time. A frigate gets clipped by a fragmenting munitions and slams into the shield of a much more powerful dreadnought. A destroyer receives concentrated fire from 6 torpedoes. The light in the dark scores 2 more beam strikes with its heavy prow lance batteries before 3 biotorpedoes dance around its escort vessels and blow its bowels open to the cold void with sickly green detonations. Acid eating away at the armor faster than any other substance I have ever seen. The countdown on my personal display trickles down still as some of my ships splash yellow, red, and even black. The casualty estimates skyrocket when concentrated fire manages to cut one of my battleships in half. It's the Apocrypha. That old Martian behemoth refuses to die, still firing while vivisected, as frigates pick up the non-essential crew. It's empty of Martian knights today. Its part in the fight is almost done, but took the brunt of so many enemy squadrons, it's a miracle it got so close. I feel the deaths as fire, acid, decompression, and the icy void claim them in fistfuls of bright lives, extinguished in seconds. I feel their pain and anguish and fear, and do my best to drown their last moments in the unity of the fleet, to make them understand they are not dying alone. It's poor comfort for dying men, but it's all I can do. It hurts to have the connection ripped so suddenly, but the blows land on raised mental defenses. The deaths wash over my psyche, and concentration is barely affected. The only palpable effect is the new fuel to my fury. Morning would come later. Victory is first. The timely deliverance avenges them with a barrage of its spinal batteries, followed by 2 ship-killers, Alpha Bravo atomics. The offending ship dies screeching in the uncaring void, its merciless gods uncaring of its fate. The countdown reached 0. The view screen darkens. Flashes dawn the void with newborn suns that join the twin stars of the system, man-made and wrathful as a scorned goddess. 12 Omega-level atomic warheads from my entire fleet slip into their defenses, detonating into pupils of light and sun death, using the trail of the railguns and their scrambled sensors from our first volley to hide their signatures. That, and the Xylax have never been hit by atomics in space. I made my entire senior staff check. Thrice. Adapt to that, you assholes. Entire enemy squadrons die to the same ammunition we used to kill Pluto. They are the only 12 my fleet had, so I made sure to make them count. The newly established sanatorium forbade me from taking more than those 12 planet glasses out of Sool. The 30 megaton atomic warheads were terrifying enough that I understood and approved of their limitation. But they never gave me limits on the Alpha Bravo atomic ordnance of 3 megaton yield I could take. And when I took command of the Armada, I made sure to stock up on naval ordnance. The void fills with them now, thrown at 3 different angels at the enemy fleet, still worried about the kinetic slugs reaping havoc on their lines. A catalytic beam from an enemy Leviathan scythes the void to hit our frontal starboard shield, forcing me to look away from the brutal flash of colliding energies. The Lady Morningstar's soul core bellows furiously at the attempt on our lives and feeds the gunnery crews new targeting data. I see the frontal rail batteries spin to a new angle and fire a steady staccato of ammunitions that singe the void in between. I subconsciously check what they have fired in retaliation. A smile dawns on my face. The 3 frontal hexabarreled batteries spew forth 18 Icarus Infernum shells, which detonate into brutal thermobaric fusions of emerald light, creating balls of fire in the void that devour the biological Xylax ship. The lack of oxygen matters not, as long as the silverite tetraphosphorus solution has something to burn. Those sickly green flames won't die. The Martian segment of the fleet ignites full thrusters to close the range to the preferred tactic of the Red Planet's inhabitants, while the Mercurians simply vanish from sensors to fight this war like they like it, unseen and unexpected. Martians, on the other hand, like it close and personal. In the void, in the ground, in politics and in bed. And I can attest to each one of them. Just as the rearguard of the Xylax fleet has managed to turn their Leviathan-sized ships to us and form actual ranks to meet us gun to gun, they failed to spot the squadrons I sent forth under the cover of the Hydra munitions and the constant fire of my ships. My hunters in the void, mostly Venusian and some elite Jovian pilots, dive from below and above the enemy fleet into the gasp they formed to better coordinate defense against our ordnance and the gaping holes my 30 megaton nukes inflicted as my ships stopped their barrage. The Xylax have 3 seconds to wonder why we have stopped firing before the first hunter-killer missile impacts an enemy ship. 1,000 more follow the first, and a behemoth goes up in detonations. Then my wolf packs of corvettes and wings of fighters are among them, killing anything their guns allow them to. The enemy's dwindled squadrons engage mine in neck-breaking dogfights among the enemy ships, hunting, killing, and saving each other. Then my Mercurian ships materialize back to reality with short-range missile salvos and heavy railgun fire, and they are gone again. Here begins their dance of the summer breeze. I almost pity the Xylax. To fight the children of the desert world is to die of 1,000 unseen cuts. Against the whole enemy fleet we would have been encircled and butchered, but whatever Udique told the Feliciasan has worked, because the defense fleet sails forth to pin the Xylax vanguard between their ships and the defense guns. I read on transit that Xenus is the name the Felician give to their spirit of death. It's an appropriate name. The satellite fires thousands upon thousands of weapon batteries, more a space station than a satellite, right at the incoming fleet, disgorging squadrons of fighters and corvettes and using its docks to take in damaged ships and repair them back on action. It's the only anchor holding this battle together, and I couldn't be more thankful for it. Enemy elements closing on Zenus, sir. Fleet Mistress Akudindi, a stern Martian of rough features but striking red eyes, offers me a data pad for me to check. I don't. The Iron Damsel is the second best admiral of Seoul, and I won't disrespect her immaculate work, but double-checking it, I might fuck it up. Looks like they are going to attempt a planetary assault. Are those walking corpses mad? Those orbital defenses will mince them to bits. Gavilan is once more upon the middle bridge, in full panoply, the roaring lion of House Lancaster shining bright on his chest. The dark figure covered in crimson and white that looks like the feverish machinations of Bram Stoker's worst nightmare stalks the bridge behind him. Thana is more than ready, her excitement like a blood-tinged start in the mantle. I just gave her the war she didn't even know she wanted. Well, the war both husband and wife wanted. Only Gavilan knew what he wanted, but he has known since he set eyes on Thana so many years ago. Their problem, not ours, I muse, getting up, my own panoply sinking to theirs. I turn back to Akudindi. How long before we're on Haymaker Range? 5 minutes to our destination, sir. She gestures toward the biggest monster inside of their fleet, almost 10 kilometers of void predator, spewing bioplasma like a punctured vein. I took the liberty of marking their biggest ship for you. My thanks, Fleet Mistress Akudindi. I offer her the fleet's scepter, which allows her to command the fleet by mere thought. She accepts it with grace and glee. It's her astral duel to win now, and the woman does enjoy her job. The Armada is yours. Safe travels, Lord Amaranth, she says, almost smiling before turning to Cass. My dictator. Smile, Akudindi, my wife muses. If I die, you might get a shot at my chair. Never for a million worlds, my dictator. She hates political play as much as my wife does, and doesn't have half the skill she has developed. She dreads having to take the Martian dictator's chair. She glances at me in a way that makes me gulp. Although I might take that shot with your husband instead. Sorry, Callie, he is off limits. My wife, in her limitless maturity and wisdom, slaps my armored ass with a metallic thud. I massage the bridge of my nose. Pity, guess I'll have to make do with the politician one. For a moment I elevate a prayer for my brother Adamas's safety. If Calliope Akudindi wants him, he isn't going to have much of a say there. Ladies, please, we have a fleet to kill, I say with a tired sigh that makes some of my bridge crew snicker among themselves. Gavilan is laughing and Thana is cackling madly at my expense. Fuckers! Akudindi sends a sneer our way before executing a crisp salute. The rest of the bridge crew mimics her perfectly, a second of solemn air filling the entire bridge. We answer in kind with our fists banging over our hearts in the old knightly ways. Hic sunt draconis, my lord, she says. She knows I will be back. I have a reputation for that. Carpe diem, fleet mistress, I respond, knowing that the day is as good as won, as long as I pull my part of the job. I walk out of the bridge, my knights and those of my wife forming tyrannies around us. I know she's calling her elites to her, so the fabled heteroi can be unleashed once more. I speak 4 dreadful words that Gavilan started to coin for us in our earliest days on the tempering, when we were scared children wanting not to die, on, in some cases like mine, to die, and that wouldn't earn their terror till the European Blitz, and that every man, woman, and child in Seoul today knows. 4 words, made legend now. Who knows? Maybe when this war ends, they will resonate in every civilized world in whatever is left of our galaxy, or maybe they will fall into nothingness, under the bleached bones of our dead species, under the light of a dead soul. But the Xylus, they will know the words, and they will remember. Even if I have to carve them in the beating heart of every single one of them I cross paths with, I will scar them into their bloody psyche. Whatever happens, that will be my victory. When the galaxy dies around those bastards, they will think of us. Because I have just released the harbingers of their end. Who the fuck am I kidding? We were never chained to begin with. Tempestari unchain the storm.